Welcome, everybody. We're here with our panelists. We're going to talk about, among other things, what keeps you up at night. And it's a lot of stuff, but we're going to keep it work related. I'm sure everybody else has other things that keep them up at night too. So so our panel is, so we've got Ramy Katrib, we've got Ian Spriggs, we've got Rob Hoffmann, and we've got Rick Champagne. And I'm going to have you guys introduce yourselves, tell people what you do, where you're from. And why don't we start with Ramy?
Hi, everyone. My name is Ramy Katrib. I'm founder of a company called DigitalFilm, which has been around for 18 years now. And we're involved in all manner of post-production services, creative services, visual effects. We also do production. We produce creative projects as well as marketing projects for ourselves and for clients. And over the last 6 or so, 7 years, I've been also involved in various software development projects in and around the production and post-production space. So I'm glad to be part of an interdisciplinary environment where I work with a lot of different people that are creative, technical, and even software developers out of Hollywood, California.
Okay. Ian?
Hi, I'm Ian Spriggs. I'm a 3D character artist. People kind of know me more for being a portrait artist, though. Do a lot of personal work. I've been in the industry about 13 years, but I think mostly people know me from the stuff I do outside of work, which is digital humans and just trying to overcome the uncanny valley and try and get creative emotions with the digital humans we create. It'd be easy if we could share a link of my art station so people can see what I do.
Sure, we could do that. We could share that link. And while we're sharing that, Rob Hoffmann, would you like to tell us what you do?
Sure. I'm Rob Hoffmann. I am the Media and Entertainment Industry Manager for Lenovo Workstations. I've been in the industry for, oh mercy, I don't even know if I want to date myself, but you can tell by the gray beard that I've been around for a little over 20 years in the industry, working on both the software as well as the hardware side, mainly from a technology and tools standpoint. I've done stints with Intergraph Computer Systems, if you put your way back hat on, companies like Newtek, Alias Wavefront, as well as Autodesk. So I've had the pleasure of both being on the software side as well as on the hardware side as it relates to art technology.
Okay, Rick?
And similar to Rob, I'm the Global Industry Strategy and Marketing Manager for Media and Entertainment at Nvidia. M&E is loosely defined as film, TV, broadcast, and advertising. And so I've been in the industry for a very long time. In fact, I worked with Rob back at Autodesk, where I was focused on inter-application workflows for the 3ds Max and Maya suites. And my tour started me on 2D software. I moved to 3D, felt I needed some hardware experience, so I moved into hardware, and now I'm at Nvidia.
Fantastic. All right. Once again, everybody, you could share questions in the chat function, and we'll get to them hopefully after we're done speaking. So let's jump in. The name of the panel is What Keeps You Up at Night? So let's start with Ramy and Ian. What is it that, if you had to pick, I'm sure there's a lot of things, but work-wise, what keeps you up at night? Is it deadlines? I mean, Ramy, yes, we were chatting recently about, you have a very interesting name for today's deadlines. Do you want to talk about that and how that relates to technology and what you guys have to provide?
Sure. First of all, not many things keep me up at night more than my 18-month toddler. But having said that, this new reality we're in, where people are binge watching, has led to binge delivery on our side of the pond. It's this notion that what used to be, we finish one episode, deliver it, move on to the next, is now more like we're delivering a 10, 13-hour narrative, sometimes all at once in a very short space. So that is a new dynamic. That tends to keep me and my collaborators up at night, because you're now iterating across many episodes across multiple departments with a narrow delivery, which is distinctly different than how it was just like 3-4 years ago. So that's one thing that's new to our environment that provides us with less sleep.
Okay, and what would be, in your mind, what helps you with those deliveries? How will technology and how does technology help you with that? Not necessarily the creative part, but just getting it there quicker.
Well, one of the things that we did several years ago was this notion of centralizing all of the camera negative or the all the raw files that were generated by any given production, and put them in a container, as it were, and then allow all our departments to grab or access what they need at the same time. And this is a variation from storing all the camera negative on, spinning discs that are on a shelf, or more commonly on LTO tape. So, all of M&E for the most part archives on LTO, which is fine. But the idea of having like an object store where you can store literally everything and not punish our clients for that, right, has been huge. It actually changes their lives, because now they can make changes and grab the assets they need readily, securely. And that was one of the first things we did to make it even possible, to iterate across an entire season across multiple departments.
Okay, Ian, how about you? You come at it from a different world. Can you talk about what keeps you up at night and how technology could help that? We have two people representing technology companies here. What would you like to share?
Yeah, so my standpoint is as the artist. Like, I'm not a technician whatsoever. Like, my stress is like the fight between being an artist and being a technician in a way. Like, technology definitely helps the industry, and there's no way you can avoid it. Like, technology is making a standard of like the level you need to achieve and making deadlines go faster. But on the other side, you kind of want to have your freedom and spend the time being creative. So for me, it's always like the struggle of finding the balance. I'd rather spend time learning how to make something aesthetically pleasing and learning like the crafts and develop my talent. I don't want to be spending all the time doing tutorials and learning programs. For me, it's like finding the balance. And it's also like Remy said, it's like meeting deadlines. The deadlines are getting faster and faster. And the only way you can achieve those deadlines is by using like, say, digital scans, and you like wrapping to the scans and like trying to automate stuff as much as possible. But the more you automate stuff, the less creative freedom you have. So for me, it's like I'm always trying to fight the balance between the two.
Right. But you need one to do the other.
Exactly. Yes. You can't. Yeah. If you have just arts, you're not going to be a digital artist. You're not going to you won't get a job. Like, so you have to have the mix of the both of them. You just got to find that nice balance between the two, so you can have a bit of both.
Well, actually, I've got a question, even though I'm supposed to be one of the panelists, which is, how often do you find, and it's both for you, Ian, and Ramy, where the technology becomes a barrier between you and the art that you're ultimately trying to create?
It happens once in a while. Like, if you look at my work, you'll notice that a lot of my work is like, I use a little bit older shaders and stuff, and it's like I'm like a little bit slower on like some of the latest trends out there. So for me, it's like I try to spend like at least 20 to 30% of my time learning that stuff, and then 70% being creative. But sometimes it's like a tool will come out which will allow me like faster rendering. It just allows me not to have to deal with that aspect of it, so I can focus more on doing the art side of it.
Right. Well, Rick, maybe you could talk a little bit about rendering and ray tracing.
Yeah, I mean, and that's one of the things that keeps me up at night is, NVIDIA moves extremely fast, and there are a lot of solutions to a lot of problems out there that people don't know about yet because it was invented yesterday. And so we have a whole suite of SDKs, and we have the hardware, of course, but people know us as a hardware company, But we have as many software developers as we do hardware engineers. And so people don't really necessarily have the full breadth. And so it's just getting the information out to people fast enough so that we can solve a problem. Like, you know, Ian wants to render something, he needs it today, not tomorrow. And so, you know, it's getting those solutions together. But then it's also working with our partners. You know, Nvidia has to go to market with other companies, and the software developers adopting those technologies fast enough is another thing that keeps us up at night. So it's an entire ecosystem, and you know, we can't do it alone, and we work really hard to help our partners with whatever it is they need, and our customers, because a lot of companies, you know, like Digital Film Tree will do in-house development, and we want to make sure that they're getting the tools, access to the tools as well. Right.
And so Ramy, and you're always sort of looking for the next technology that could help you in your work. And I know that you've been speeding up your workflows, but also you've been looking into other kinds of technology like blockchain. And could you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. I mean, right now it's a very transformational time in our industry because there's so many things going on at the same time. You know, looking into things like AI and machine learning and blockchain ledgers to track assets across departments, and virtual storytelling tools like Unity and the cloud, and all these things are all happening at the same time. It's really amazing. You know, in terms of a quick backdrop, we came from physical film, you know, and then transitioned to digital. And today there's like 7 relevant things happening all at the same time, which I think are relevant to the media and entertainment industry. So, but in terms of technology being a blocker and an enabler, which I just thought about as I was listening to you guys, technology can block the artistic process. I would allude to the new requirements for security. As artists are creating, they're working within a new framework where it's all about security, where you have to lock down facilities, you have to whitelist people. I mean, that's become a challenge where you strike a balance between security and artists and the way that they would normally behave. And we've really tried to strike a balance where our security architects, our IT people are endeavoring to support the artists while maintaining a secure environment. And that's hard because sometimes those two activities, crash into each other. So that's an example where technology can be a blocker to the artistic process. In terms of enabling, this is just like geeky fun, but we just built this box that has 2 Nvidia GV100 cards, which is like the Porsche card. And that thing is awe-inspiring. I mean, that box, what it can do with 2 Nvidia cards, running, complex timelines with 8K and HDR and everything, it is literally awe-inspiring. One box can now do what used to be a stack of technology. So it's horribly exciting. And I think especially for the people that are pre-visualizing, for creators, I think the opportunities there are just flat out exciting. The fact that I can iterate on something creative much more quickly than I could a year ago is just one thing that actually makes you sleep at night. It's the opposite. It makes you happy.
Great. Well, Ian, can you talk a little bit about that as well? And also, I mean, you're coming at this from the artist's perspective, but you have to deal with technologists. So how do you go about finding a common language? And Rick and Rob and Ramy, everybody could jump in after, but but Ian, if you could take that first, that'd be great.
Sure. I think like the things about technology which I find discouraging is I sometimes find that technology defines what the art is rather than the other way around a little bit more. So I'll give you like an example. Like if you have a digital scan, before that, people would model digital humans and they would kind of guess and make mistakes, and those mistakes become a style, and that style becomes someone's artwork. Whereas now it's like we're getting a standard of what it should look like, and that's accurate. So most artists are going towards that direction of what it should look like. And I feel like, I'm not sure if I should say this, but I feel like there's a lot of digital humans which look very similar to each other now. So a lot of artists are creating stuff which isn't that original, but it's very similar to each other. Whereas a lot of it's like in T-poses, they're focusing on super micro pore details. Whereas before it's like with art history and paintings and stuff, it was all about emotion and expression. And I feel like we might be moving away from that a little bit. So for me, I think technology is kind of like defining what art is. And I like it more to see like art defining what technology is. It's like if you have if you're doing a drawing, that drawing will, no matter how many like functions you can add to the pencil, you move left, right, up, down, and make circles, it'll always be a drawing. It'll never be a painting. It'll never be a sculpture. It'll always be a drawing. So it'd be nice to somehow break out of the boundaries of what technology could do. So for example, like I would love to see somebody do a digital human and intentionally make it look absolutely terrible. But that's the intention, just to see if they can make mistakes and learn from those mistakes and create a style and create something new and original.
No, I mean, what I'm in my observations as a non-artist and working with artists and production facilities, a lot of what's been happening in the industry is basically there is a audience expectation, and I'm just going to use film, television, video games, as kind of the example where consumers, an expectation is set upon the last project they saw, whether it's in a movie theater, on their television, or a gaming experience. And from, and I'm one of those consumers as well. So I always expect to see the next video game or the next film project comes out to be higher fidelity, more compelling. Just, the easy way of saying it is, it's just a lot more complexity. So what's happening is that burden right now is falling from, okay, it's being driven by the audience and the final end consumer, but then the studios producing that content are then pushing that requirement down on those that are creating the art, whether it's the production facilities that are then pushing it down to the artists, where they're being asked to deliver a larger volume of much more complex content, but the time frames aren't getting longer, and in many cases the budgets are getting compressed, or reducing or staying flat, and there's just basically this fundamental gap between what the client expectations are of that artist and the content they're creating, and ultimately the resources there are at hand, whether it's human resources to the artists themselves where they're creating the content, or the technology at hand to be able to help push that content out in a more productive way and compress those time frames, or to reduce those budgets to be able to produce it. And one of the big things that keeps me awake at night is, from a hardware standpoint, it's one of those tricky things where we have to have a grasp as to where is production not going to be tomorrow or 6 months from now, but literally 3 to 4 years from now. So that way we can develop the technology or our component of the larger technology tool set that the artists are using. But we have to put on our binoculars and see way out in the future to try to figure that out. So that way we're staying, either we're able to address the technological challenges that individuals are facing, or trends in production as they're taking place, or be ready for them when they come out at some point in the future. And that is one of those tricky things.
Sure. Well, on that note, why don't we talk a little bit about AI and machine learning? And I think that keeps some people up at night because people are a little afraid. It's a new technology. How is it going to affect everyone? And will it take jobs? But I think we all, I mean, I'll open it up to you guys, but I think we all agree that it's not going to take any sort of creative jobs, that maybe it will help do things that are time intensive and not artisty at all. So who would like to grab that first?
Oh, I can start, and there are, a couple of things recently that, to your point. So there's a company out there called AIVA, and if you've ever seen anything that they do audio, so they'll do music for soundtracks, and recently they just, released a rock song. All of the music that they have is generated by AI, and it sounds pretty good. I mean, their drummer can keep a better beat than I can. And but then there's also, we saw recently Christie's sold a painting that was completely generated by AI for over $400,000, maybe over 500,000, in that ballpark. And so people do get concerned, but that's a moment in time, and that's really what was being bought there. I think going back to what Ian was saying, how technology might be driving the creative. I think it's really important now. We are creating new tools with AI. We are enabling people to have humans stand up and walk on their own in the 3D space. But it's beyond that now. What we have to do is we're giving people a better starting point. It's like what stock photography did for advertising. Suddenly, all these enterprise marketing campaigns had two people standing in an airport shaking hands. We don't want that. We want life. We want the human element to be brought in, the emotion that Ian was talking about. So the role of the artist is really to not focus on those technical details and the things that can be done by a machine, but to really bring out a new way to express humanity through art. And so I think it's a real opportunity now, rather than it is a liability. It's going to help artists.
Okay, Ramy, do you want to grab that from post-production point of view? How do you see AI fitting in?
Sure. I mean, I'll grab it from production and post, and try to touch upon several ideas, starting with what Ian said. One of the coolest use cases I've seen recently of AI, above and beyond our utilization of AI process with what we do, is in the Unity game engine. A few weeks ago, Unity had an event called Unite LA, which is kind of their big event for their community, and they announced something called Cinecast. And the idea there is you can have a game where a bunch of people are playing each other from around the world in all these virtual rooms, and it's so vast that you can have 100 rooms and hundreds of people milling around, going from one room to the next. So Unity developed AI cameras. So think of it as I have cameras in the physical world, and humans turn them on and off, right? Record, stop. So these cameras were essentially trained to gravitate to rooms where there's action, as opposed to rooms that are empty. So for example, you can have a bunch of people playing and they enter a room and then they leave. When they leave, that room is kind of not compelling, so the camera will go somewhere else. And that was like a really cool use case, because it's almost like having a broadcasting capability within a virtual world, because it's hard for humans to keep track of 100 rooms. So what it does is it'll propose to you that I'm going into that room, and you as the broadcaster or the administrator have 3 seconds or so to decide that that's a good place to be. You can either overwrite it, go to another room, or let it play out for the duration of the action in that room. So that was really interesting. I can wrap my mind around that really well in terms of a good AI use case. And then going back to something Ian said earlier, as we're starting to utilize Unity to do production and post, it's really funny, Ian, because our artists who are used to a certain level of quality, of photorealism, whether it's motion capture or things that they draw, you know, I propose this idea that we do something in low fidelity, and they go, why would you do that? Like, it just never struck them, because they're just thinking in a certain way, like it has to be photoreal, it has to be flawless. And you know, it makes me think about like 2D art that's crude, but that has emotion and expression, like you said. That's much more compelling than photorealism in and of itself from an artistic standpoint. But it was interesting that we were having discussions, not about technology, but just a nuance of expression, storytelling, emotion, and what grabs an audience, irregardless of the technology or the technique. So what you said had a lot of resonance in our life today.
Ian, you want to tackle that?
Yeah, exactly. I think too many people get getting tunnel vision in a way with technology, because for us as an artist, like technology is quite exciting. It is opening a lot of doors but it is kind of like leading us in some way, and we think photorealism is the way to go with digital humans. But it's like you watch something like Lion King, it's like the animals, and you feel like they're the most human emotion you possibly get from it, and that's not even remotely human.
Yes. Do you guys know when The Matrix came out?
Oh.
Let's see. The Matrix came out in 1999. And you know how they used that crude camera system to capture those shots where the bullets are coming by?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but I haven't seen anything that looks much better than that since 1999.
Yeah, that was, oh man, that's putting the way back hat on. That was all Kedara technology, if I'm not mistaken. But,
yeah, with kind of a crude
ring of cameras.
camera system that was in a semi-oval, and I mean, I just saw it recently and I was dumbfounded, because since then there's been numerous techniques and technologies, actually outstanding companies that you know work in that space, but it's really amazing that was achieved back in 1999.
Yeah. A lot of our industry, I feel like Luke was saying before, it's like we build on top of each other. So it's like every generation which is coming in, we kind of like build on top of that, and they build on top of that, and they build on top of that. And things do get better, but it's like if you want to go back to the Matrix, it's almost like you need to get rid of the step one and redo the step one just to see what would happen.
Mm-hmm.
So Ian, as an artist, what excites you about AI, and what scares you about AI? Or what can you use in your daily life, work life, that it would help?
What I do like is like it does help a lot of artists, and it's like it really it brings up the like the competition level. Like everybody is able to have access to it to really mix things. It's actually, I think things are looking better now. I think there's a lot of artists who are using tools and using ZBrush, Mudbox, like doing some amazing renders. And because of like all this technology, which is allowing them to do that, and I think it's pulling out it's like pushing out the even better artists. It's forcing artists to actually really try and make a stride to actually stand out, because it's creating a lot more competition. There's a lot of communities, and so I think because of this, it's like you're actually getting some really quite high level art out there.
Okay, great. We are sort of almost wrapping up, but is there anything, so Rob or Rick, in terms of AI, machine learning, working in real time, I know is a big deal right now, and people are doing more of it. Do you guys want to touch upon that?
Well, just on the AI, I mean, there are a lot of different tools that AI can provide to artists. And so everything from character animation, like we talked about, but again, the artist brings in the emotion, and we had good discussion around that. But there are also other things like in rendering, denoising, which is, you know, just getting getting you to a point where you can make a creative decision faster. That's something that's really important to us, is helping artists and anyone who's part of the creative decision-making process, whether it's a director or someone who's got to turn something around really quick, for review. We really want to help them get to that point faster. So things like, ray tracing and denoising, better, faster animation, full body at this point. We can do audio-driven facial animation. We can do PFNN or face function neural networks to get people to walk. We have ways of doing style transfer. There's like a wealth of tools that are coming alive now. And so, yeah, I think that's really helping with the creative process. And then real-time technologies is really exciting to us. If you saw the storm surge video that the Weather Channel did, that was all, Unreal Engine, real time, and then bringing a level of ray tracing to that could make the quality even more realistic. I think, we're at such an exciting time in our history. And then, virtual production using real time, doing animation, like television shows are being done in game engines now. So we used to talk about convergence, because games were getting cinematic trailers. Well, it's flipped now, and the film industry is adopting game technologies. So it's just such an exciting time in our history. I think the possibilities are endless.
Yeah, and on my side, I mean, when we look at AI, I see it as a progression of the tool sets that the artists are using, where it's no different than when artists were doing keyframe character animation, and then mocap came along, but at no time did mocap put all the character animators out of work. I mean, I see it as just a progression of the actual features within the software solutions themselves that hopefully are reducing the, as Ian had alluded to, the technological burden that's put on the artists, where it allows the software and the technology to do more of the mundane tasks, more of the stuff that pulls the artist out away from the art and allows the artist to be able to focus on the true art itself. That's where I see things going. And then obviously you're going to have large production facilities out there that will create their own AI solutions. But then again, they're custom AI solutions versus AI technology that's embedded within the current art tool sets, from, pick your 3D or your editing or your compositing vendor that's out there. And, they'll have their own secret sauce, whether it's to optimize the production pipeline or to be able to catalog things or to assist in trying to get better grades or grade consistency across different shots, be able to more quickly render out frames, which is very computationally intensive, but also very expensive from a financial standpoint as well. So when I'm looking at AI and then also kind of touching a bit on the hardware rendering side, I see it as a way to really kind of pull the ball and chain off the artists themselves, so they can really focus on what's most important, which is the art, and allow them to be able to iterate faster, so that way they can end up with something completely different than where they started from. So I see it as one of those things where it's not a burden. It's not something that's, oh my God, I've got to learn something new. It's not, oh my God, I'm going to be out of a job because a computer is going to do my work for me. I see it quite the opposite, where it's really just going to, as Ian and everybody else has already kind of mentioned, where it's it's going to allow people to stand on the shoulders of others, and then on the shoulders of others, to where we can progress, how art is created, or the art that's ultimately being created.
Great. All right. Well, we might not have gotten to everybody's questions. Just finally, Rick and Rob, the fact that you wanted to participate in a conversation like this means a lot. It means you want to hear from users. You want to hear about their pain points, what they need, how do you guys go about engaging them other than something like this? And what can people do? I mean, you provided links and social media. Should they reach out and suggest, or what do you guys prefer?
Absolutely. I mean, without the artists and the art and production community, our tools, well, I can't say blanketly, but the tools are kind of irrelevant. So we, you know, on my side of the fence, we work really closely with the customers, where we do customer advisory councils to bring in artists or, you know, software developers or tools developers or studio heads to basically have a glimpse as to what are we doing with the technology today and where do we want to take it tomorrow, and does it fit within what they expect out of us and where they see the industry and where they see production going in the future. So, you know, that's one of the really important things, because if we do not have that connection with the artists and we're hopefully speaking the same language, you know, we're developing in a vacuum, and that does not benefit anybody. So, you know, customer interaction, direct feedback, whether it's in small panels or just in casual conversations, is extremely important for any technology developer or provider.
Okay.
And likewise, we hold advisory councils. We have a rendering council with over 30 vendors out there, including in-house renderers, and real-time engines are part of this council. We also have our own advisory councils for customers. We have partner advisory councils where we invite all of our partner software development companies or ISVs. And then, you know, we have an R&D department that works very closely with customers. So we're involved in a number of projects already, and we love to work with our customers to figure out, you know, what it is that they need and the kind of help that they need. We also created the Deep Learning Institute, which is to help people. There's some self-driven training that you can do to get up to speed and learn more about, you know, how to create a neural network, all the way through to we can do customized courses, and there are some new media and entertainment courses available. And we host these at events sometimes, and we can even do them on site for a company if they want to bring in the Deep Learning Institute. So we do a lot in terms of education and soliciting feedback and working directly with customers on real production challenges. And so, I mean, that's how the whole, RTX platform came to life. That was working with customers. That was 10 years in the making. To bring RTX together with Turing as our newest GPUs with the software development toolkits. So, you know, there's a lot of that kind of work that goes on, and we're always engaging and want to keep, you know, learning the new things that people are doing and helping them with that.
Fantastic. That's fantastic. So thank you guys. Just reminding everybody out there, users, you have access to the people that are making the tools that you use. So reach out, share your feelings. Ramy, Ian, Rick, Rob, thank you very much for coming.